Hey everyone, welcome back to another Figma tutorial. In today's video, we're going to create this really smooth parallax scrolling animation. And the best part? We're doing the whole thing right inside Figma. I create Figma animation tutorials like this, so if you find it helpful, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Alright, without wasting any time, let's dive right in. So, I've already got all the images we'll need. I've set up a few color variables. A dark shade for the text, a primary color, and another one for the shape we'll be using in the design. Let's start by adding a frame. Next, I'll quickly create a navbar. Here's the logo, some nav links, and a couple of buttons at the end. Select everything and apply auto layout. Set the spacing between items to auto. Now let's add our heading. We're going to build it letter by letter. First, write the first letter. Resize it. Change the font. Adjust the letter height to 80%. And set the color. Then, duplicate it. Swap the letter, and keep repeating this process to form the full word. Once all the letters are in place, select them and group them into a frame. Position this frame properly inside the main frame. We'll follow the same steps to add the second part of the heading. Select all letters and make another frame. Make sure clip content is enabled for both frames. Now let's create some background shapes. Add an ellipse and fill it with our primary color. Then, add another slightly smaller ellipse on top of it. Give this one a lighter shade of the primary color. Apply a layer blur to it. And lower the opacity. Next, add a larger ellipse. Remove its fill color. Set its stroke to a gradient instead of a solid color. I'll show you why in a bit. Align it carefully around the other ellipses. Now, bring in the wine image named Rose and resize it. Place it on the frame over the ellipses and add some rotation. Lock this layer for now. Go back to the outer ellipse. Tweak the gradient. Set the first color's opacity to 0%. And adjust the angle of gradient just like this. Cool. Now unlock the wine image. Time to create some components. Alright, now let's go ahead and add a star shape to our design. Resize it to the size you want. Change the number of corners. Tweak the angle to get the style you like. Now change the color of the shape. Add a text label over it. Here are the settings I'm using for the text. Align it properly with the shape so it sits nicely in the center. Select the shape and text, group them into a frame. Great, now we're going to make a few copies of this. So, first, create a duplicate of the frame. Then, select just the shape inside it and rotate it 90 degrees to the right. Duplicate that frame again and rotate it another 90 degrees. Do it one more time. Duplicate, rotate 90. And again, one last duplicate and rotate it 90 degrees. You should now have 5 frames, each rotated to a different angle. Select all of those frames and convert them into a component set. Alright, now let's add a prototype to it. Start by connecting the first frame to the second one. Set the interaction to after delay with a delay of just 1 millisecond. For the animation, choose Smart Animate. Set the easing to linear and set the duration to 2000 milliseconds. Now just repeat that for the rest. Connect the second frame to the third to the fourth, and fourth to the fifth. Use the same animation settings for all of them. Then, to loop it back, connect the fifth frame back to the first one, but this time set the animation type to instant. so it resets immediately without transition. Now rename the component so it's easier to keep track of later. Okay, now let's move on and create our button component. First, add the button text and an icon next to it. Now apply auto layout to it. Add a fill color. Let's give it some padding on all sides. Now add border radius to make it rounded. Now add an ellipse on top of the button. Set its position to absolute so we can move it around freely inside the auto layout frame. Change its color to your primary color. Bring that layer to the front. Now position this ellipse just outside the button frame. Make sure you enable clip content on the frame. That way, anything outside the boundary stays hidden. Next, duplicate the button frame. In this second frame, scale up the ellipse so it fully covers the button. This will be our hover effect. Now select both frames and turn them into a component set. Let's add the prototype. Set the trigger to while hovering. Set the animation type to Smart Animate, curve to ease in and out, and duration to 400 milliseconds. And finally, rename this component too. Now let's bring everything together. Drag the star component from the Assets panel and place it into the main frame. Then add a subtext to the frame. Convert this text into a frame as well, and make sure clip content is turned on. Now, place the button component on the frame. Select both ellipses and the wine image and bring them to the front. Also, bring the button to the front. Finally, select the outer ellipse and send it to the back. We've now fully set up this frame for the animation. Alright, now let's prep the animation for the hero section loading effect. First, create a duplicate of this frame. Now, jump back to the first frame. This is where we'll set up all the initial hidden positions. Let's start with the navbar. Move it upwards so it slides out of view. Then take the star component and the button and shift them to the right, enough to hide them outside the frame. Alright, now select the subtext. Since it's already inside a frame, just move it downwards. It'll get hidden due to the clip content setting. Next, we're going to animate the main heading letter by letter. So, for the first part of the heading, select one letter at a time. Hold down Shift plus Spacebar and move each letter downward and slightly staggered. Basically, arrange them so they form a kind of ladder pattern like you saw in the video, each letter at a slightly different level to give it that cascading effect. Do the same thing for the second part of the heading as well. Make sure that clip content is still enabled for the heading frame. That's what hides everything neatly during the animation. While you're moving elements outside the frame, hold down Shift plus Spacebar. It makes it easier to move them out cleanly without messing up the layout. Now let's animate the ellipses. Scale them down and move them downward, out of view. Also, set the opacity of the outer ellipse to 0. Finally, move the wine image down as well, just enough to hide it from view. And that's it. This gives us a nice starting point for a smooth hero section loading animation. Alright, first, create a duplicate of the second frame. This will be our base for the next step. Now in this third frame, we'll start hiding a few elements to prepare for the transition. Let's begin by moving the navbar, the headings, and the star component all the way up, just enough to push them outside the frame. And again, don't forget, hold Shift plus Spacebar while moving them, so you can nudge things out smoothly without breaking the layout. Next, let's handle the subtext. Since it's already inside its own frame, move it upward first to hide it, and then move that entire subtext frame completely out of the main frame. Now select the outer ellipse and bring its opacity down to 0. Next, select the main ellipse, scale it up so that it completely covers the entire frame, and make sure it's centered properly. Now resize the wine image and align it to the center of the frame. Okay, let's add some text on both sides of the wine image. Now reposition the button to fit the layout. Then bring the button to the front, since we've just added new elements that might overlap it. Now select the overlay ellipse and place that right in the center as well. Increase its layer blur to give it a soft, smooth glow. Now here's an important part. We're going to copy both the new texts, then go back to the second frame. In the second frame, simply hit Ctrl+V to paste them. Now move those texts downward so they sit outside the visible area. Now disable clip content on the frame temporarily so you can adjust their positions easily. Just rearrange them if needed. And again, bring the button to the front in this frame too, so it stays on top. Finally, enable clip content once again. This hides anything outside the frame, and that's it. Our third frame setup is complete. Alright, now duplicate the third frame. Now in this fourth frame, select both of the texts near the wine image and move them upward so they're out of view. Do the same with the button, just slide it up and hide it as well. Now disable clip content on the frame temporarily so you can adjust their positions easily. Just rearrange them if needed. Next, select the main ellipse and move it up so that it's covering just the top half of the frame. Then, take the wine image and push that up too. Leave only the lower half of the bottle visible. We'll do the same with the overlay ellipse. Move it up and keep half of it inside the frame. Alright, now let's add some feature icons at the bottom of the frame to showcase different benefits. So let's add an icon. You can see all the details of the icon. Now add a short text underneath it. Select both of them and apply auto layout. Now let's go ahead and add 4 more features. Once you've got all 5, arrange them evenly across the bottom of the frame, spaced out nicely so everything looks balanced. Now, select all of those icons and texts and copy them. Go back to the third frame and simply paste them in using Ctrl+V. Now move them downward until they're outside the visible frame. Now disable clip content on the frame temporarily so you can adjust their positions easily. Push them down a little more. Now rearrange their positions. Finally, enable clip content once again. Our fourth frame setup is now completed. Alright, now duplicate the fourth frame. Now in the fifth frame, just move both of the ellipses upward, outside the frame, so they're no longer visible. Next, we'll take all the feature icons and texts and move them up as well. Now disable clip content on the frame temporarily so you can adjust their positions easily. Just rearrange them if needed. Now, for the wine image, let's bring it fully into view. We want the entire bottle visible this time. Then, go ahead and add other wine images to the frame. We'll also resize the rose wine image and position it right in the middle. This one's going to be the focus of this section. Next, let's add a heading text here. And just below the bottle, let's add some pricing details. Let's quickly drop in all the text elements needed for this part. Now, make sure to select the rose wine bottle and bring it to the front. Select all the other wine images except the rose one and copy them. Go back to the fourth frame and paste them using Ctrl+V. Now return to the fifth frame and copy all the new text elements as well. Jump back to the fourth frame again and paste them here too. In the fourth frame, select everything that came from the fifth frame and move them downward to hide them off screen for animation. Also, bring the rose bottle to the front here in the fourth frame, just like we did in the fifth. Now, move the heading down as well to make hidden. Disable the clip content option on the frame temporarily so you can see everything clearly. Now, just move all those elements down a bit more. Rearrange the wine bottles in a kind of ladder pattern. That'll give us a really nice cascading animation effect. Do the same for the text elements. Now enable clip content, again to hide the overflow. And fifth frame is all set and ready to animate. Alright, let's duplicate the fifth frame. Now in this sixth frame, let's hide all the wine images except the rose image. Just move them all upward to push them out of the frame. Move all the text up to hide it. Disable clip content for now to view the hidden elements. Rearrange wine bottles in a ladder pattern, just like we did earlier. It'll make the entry animation look smooth and staggered. Also, move the heading up to hide it as well. Enable the clip content so all the overflow stays hidden. Next, select the rose wine bottle and scale it up and add a slight rotation to it. Place it on the right side of the frame like this. Alright, now let's add the logo and some navigation links to this frame. Here are the settings of the texts. Now we'll add a main heading here. Break the heading into multiple lines, with each line as its own element. Here are settings of the text. Once you've got all the lines added, convert each one into its own frame. Then select all of them and enable clip content for each frame. Now go to the Assets panel and drag in both the button component and the star component we created earlier. Place them in the frame. Since we've already used these components in earlier frames, we need to rename them here. Now select all the new elements in this frame, except for the rose bottle, and copy them. Go back to the fifth frame and paste everything in. Now, just move all of them downward, so they're hidden outside the visible area for the animation. Disable clip content temporarily so you can see all the hidden elements. Now, move down the button and star components a bit more. Next, move the heading text lines down as well. Since each one is inside its own frame, make sure clip content is turned on so anything outside the frame gets hidden properly. Also, move the logo and nav links downward. Now enable clip content, again to hide the overflow. And the sixth frame is done. Let's quickly fix a small mistake in the first frame. Go back to that first frame. Select the outer ellipse and set its opacity back to 100%. Then move it downward to hide it from view. Also scale it down slightly. Now disable the clip content temporarily to view the hidden elements. Select the overlay ellipse and reset it back to its original size. Move it downward as well to hide it. And finally, just re-enable clip content to hide everything outside the frame. Alright, now that all our frames are ready, it's time to add the prototype connections. Let's start by connecting the first frame to the second. Set the trigger to after delay and keep the delay at 200 milliseconds. For the animation, choose Smart Animate. Choose Custom Bezier for the easing. Set the duration to 1500 milliseconds. You can use this value for custom Bezier. Now connect the second frame to the third one. Since Figma doesn't support native scroll animations, we'll use drag interactions, just like how scrolling works on mobile or tablet devices. Rest of the animation settings will be same. From here, just repeat the same process for the rest of the frames. Connect each frame to the next one using drag interactions and the same animation settings. Now for the reverse interaction, connect the last frame back to the previous one. This time, change the animation type to move in. Set the direction to down. Keep all the other settings the same, including duration and easing. Make sure to enable animate matching layers for every connection. Repeat this reverse connection for every frame going backward, except don't connect the second frame back to the first. Don't connect the second frame back to the first. And that's it. All the frames are connected. Let's give it a quick test. Perfect. Everything's working smoothly, just like we wanted. And that's a wrap. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you found it helpful, make sure to like the video and drop a comment below. It really helps and keeps me motivated to create more content like this. And of course, Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.